Chapters 22 through 24 take us through the story of Balaam. The story of Balaam is pretty interesting because it's a story that, I don't know about you, but it had me scratching my head the first many times I read it. It's a difficult story to understand by itself. Other parts of the Bible explain it. But when you read it by itself, it's a little tough to understand. And it's one of those things that it went over my head the first several times I read it. Because I didn't understand why God wanted to kill Balaam when he tells Balaam he can go with him. But then when he gets up to go with him, it says, God sent an angel to kill Balaam because he went with him. I'm like, I thought you said it was okay for him to go. But if you read that story really carefully, it makes sense. And then when you compare other scripture in Deuteronomy, and especially in the book of Jude, 2 Peter chapter 2, and Revelation chapter 2, it makes sense. Let me just give it to you real quick in a nutshell. What it was that Balaam was the kind of guy where he's offering spiritual services for money. And, God holds this guy up as a rotten example in 2 Peter 2. He says that Balaam loved the wages of unrighteousness. And it says that these false prophets are like Balaam. They want to get paid. So Balaam was a guy where people would pay him to bless them or pay for him to curse somebody. So Balak, the bad king, goes to Balaam and says, well, hey, I know that whoever you bless is blessed and whoever you curse is cursed. So I want you to curse the children of Israel because they're my enemies. Well, the problem is the Lord's with the children of Israel. He's not with the heathen Midianites and the Moabites, okay? So basically, Balaam goes to God and says, hey, God, is it all right if I, go with the... And he says, no, don't go with those guys. God basically tells Balaam, do not curse them because he said, I'm blessing Israel. Israel are my people. I'm among them. They're doing right. And so, no, do not curse them. So Balaam comes back and tells him, sorry, guys, I can't do it. God told me no. Doesn't matter how much money you pay me. See, some people get hung up on that and they think, oh, what a noble guy there because he won't take the money. Because he says, no, I'm not interested. I'm not going to do it. But here's what happens. They come back again later and they ask him to do it again. And you know what he should have done at that point? He should have said, look, what part of no don't you understand here? It's wrong. It's sin. I'm not going to do it. But he's like, okay, I'm going to go ask God again. Okay. Now, what's up with that? Think about that. Okay. But then also when God answers him, he says, if they call for you, go. Next verse, he just gets up and goes. So that's what it was that he didn't wait for them to call him. He's just like, score. I get to go do this, And then he's like, okay, well, if they call you, go. And then he just goes without getting called. While he's on his way there, the angel comes to kill Balaam. And Balaam's ass, God allows Balaam's ass or donkey to see the angel that Balaam can't see. So the donkey basically is like jamming his foot into the rocks because he's trying to get the donkey to go forward and it won't go forward. So he's whipping it and beating it. And finally the thing crushes Balaam's foot against the wall. And Balaam gets so mad he starts yelling at the ass and saying, if I had a sword in my hand, I'd kill you right now. And then God literally opens the mouth of the ass and it begins to talk to Balaam. That's a pretty fascinating... I'm telling you, Numbers has some cool stories. If you can get through all those names, it's a fascinating book. And the funny thing is how Balaam just responds back. To me, the fact that the ass speaks is not the amazing part. The amazing part is just Balaam's conversation with it. That's kind of mind-blowing. But this is referenced in the New Testament where it says, the dumb ass speaking with man's voice forbade the madness of the prophet. So what does it say? Balaam is crazy. And what's he crazy about? He's crazy about making money. Now, sure, he refuses to curse Israel for one reason, because there's an angel coming to kill him. And because God says, you better tell them exactly what I tell you, or I'm going to kill you, right? So then he says all the right things that God tells him to say, but his heart is what? After money. So even though he's saying and doing the right things outwardly, in his heart, he wants to do wrong. He wants to make the money. He wants to do it wrong. And so what he ends up doing, according to Revelation, it says that Balaam taught them to commit fornication and to eat things sacrificed unto idols. So basically, he can't pronounce a curse on them, but what he can do is get them to sin, and then by getting them to sin, they're going to be cursed. So he found a backdoor way to curse the children of Israel, and for his sin, he is slaughtered by the children of Israel, which is mentioned later on in the book, and also in Joshua, where they killed Balaam. And it calls him Balaam the soothsayer. Okay, so Balaam's a bad guy. Super interesting story. Numbers 22 through 24 deal with Balaam. Chapter 25 is where they get into the fornication and idolatry. It doesn't mention Balaam, but Revelation tells us that he was the one behind the scenes there that made that happen in Numbers 25.